What's up everyone, it's United Weather here. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Tropical Storm Francine. We're going to go over the latest model data and the latest information from the National Hurricane Center to give you guys an idea of what to expect with this storm as it moves closer to the Louisiana coast before eventually making landfall sometime on Wednesday night. We're going to be going over all the latest impacts, timing, and effects this storm will have in areas like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and even Texas over the next few days. So taking a look at the latest outlook here from the National Hurricane Center, this is as of 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It is currently 65 miles per hour sustained winds. That is 5 miles per hour below a hurricane, so almost at hurricane strength. Hasn't taken that next step up though. And you can see it is expected to continue to move to the northeast over the next few days, eventually becoming a hurricane most likely by this evening, and continuing to strengthen as it approaches the coast. We do have hurricane warnings up for pretty much the entire Louisiana coast. Areas like New Orleans, you guys are in a tropical storm warning. Areas on the Gulf Coast of Texas, you guys are in a tropical storm watch. Also some warnings right on the border of Texas and Louisiana. And you can see by the timing here on the National Hurricane Center cone, it is expected to make landfall 7 p.m. on Wednesday. So Wednesday evening is when the storm is supposed to make landfall in Louisiana here. So obviously, according to the National Hurricane Center here, Wednesday evening is when the worst of the storm is going to be for areas in Louisiana, New Orleans, and even Mississippi. Now looking at the storm surge map here, you can see we have 5 to 10 feet of storm surge here for the Louisiana coast. Areas like New Orleans, you guys are only at 2 to 4 feet. I am thinking areas to the east, like New Orleans, I think your surge will increase a little bit. Most of the latest model guidance has shifted this storm a little bit further to the east, so that is definitely a trend we're going to have to watch as the storm moves closer. But right now, the National Hurricane Center is going with 5 to 10 feet for central Louisiana coast, 4 to 7 feet just to the east of there, and New Orleans, you guys are at 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. So on top of the heavy rain and the strong wind from the storm, storm surge is also going to be a pretty big issue along the coast. And speaking of heavy rain here, this is the rainfall forecast from the National Hurricane Center. You can see we do have a pretty big area of 4 to 6 inches of rain here. And further to the south, closer to the coast, you have an area of 6 to 8 inches, and that includes areas like New Orleans and pretty much the entire eastern coast of Louisiana and even the entire coast of Mississippi. We also do have a little tiny area of what looks to be 8 to 12 inches there to the southeast of Lake Charles. Again, as I did mention, the latest model guidance has been shifting the storm further and further east, so I would not be surprised if we see the heaviest rain here shift a little bit further to the east in the next National Hurricane Center update. And we'll take a look at that in the models later in the video, but this is what the National Hurricane Center is going with right now. So obviously, flooding is also going to be a big problem on top of this, especially since this area has been kind of getting battered by rain over the past week from a low pressure system that's been sitting out over the Gulf. So the ground there is already pretty wet and saturated, and it's definitely not going to be able to hold all of this rain falling down in a short period of time. So now taking a look at some of our forecast models, this is the GFS model, and as you can see, you have your tropical storm down here in the Gulf of Mexico, and if you move ahead 24 hours here, you can see it strengthens into a hurricane, 979 millibars. This would be a hurricane at this point, a pretty strong hurricane at that. 979 millibars, that should be a pretty strong category 1 hurricane. And if we continue to move it forward here, you can see it does strengthen into a 975 millibar hurricane Wednesday night. However, right before it makes landfall here, there is a good amount of wind shear right along the coast here. The good thing about that is that it might weaken the storm a little bit before it makes landfall. So that is some good news if you were a little bit further inland, is that this wind shear is probably going to tear apart the storm fairly quickly. Of course, for the coast, that's not really going to have that much of an effect for your impacts. You're still going to be getting that strong wind, but areas further inland, that's definitely good news for you that we have that strong wind shear hanging out as it moves further inland. And you can see that if we move that further ahead here by Thursday afternoon, it's already at 990 millibars and weakening a good amount. You can see the gradient is really more spread out here. The winds aren't as strong. Of course, rain is still going to be a problem with this, especially further inland. That's probably going to be the main impacts from this storm, is that flooding rain. And again, as we talked about earlier in this video, this area here has been getting dumped on by rain over the past week from a low pressure system. So the ground there is already pretty saturated. So flooding is definitely going to be a big problem inland and as well as along the coast with that storm surge. And taking a look at the rainfall totals here from the GFS model, you can see there is a pretty large area here of what looks to be, 6 to 8, even close to 10 inches here on some coastal areas in Louisiana. Areas like New Orleans, you guys are going to be getting about 4 to 5 inches according to the GFS model. Areas on the Mississippi coast, another 6 to 8 inches of rain. It really depends on how these kind of feeder bands set up. If you guys get stuck in one of those heavier bands to the east of the storm, you guys are definitely going to be getting some more localized rainfall totals. So it is pretty hard to pinpoint that down, but I'd say in general you can expect 4 to 6 inches, localized amounts up to 10 inches with those heavier bands along the coast. And further inland, you can see we also are getting 6 inches, maybe even 7 inches in some spots here of rain. So again, that's going to be the biggest threat inland, is the rain, as this wind shear should probably rip the storm apart as it moves further north. I'll take a look at another forecast model here. This is the European model, and this is last night's run, so do keep that in mind that today's run has not yet come out, so this is some old data from last night, but it does have the same general idea as the American or GFS model here. You can see this is Wednesday evening, 974 millibars. This will be a strong category 1, weak category 2 hurricane here. It is a little bit further west than the GFS. However, like I just mentioned, this is last night's run, so I would expect today's run to shift a little bit east following the GFS, but we'll have to see what happens. But either way, a strong category 1, weak category 2 hurricane here Wednesday night, impacting the Louisiana coast and making landfall. And of course, as it moves inland, you can see it does weaken significantly, all the way down to 988 millibars early Thursday morning. So by that time, it should pretty much just be the heavy rain that we're talking about here. And looking at the rainfall here from the European model, it is a little bit more aggressive, especially further inland than what the GFS model was. You can see we do have this area here on the coast, again, similar to the GFS model of, 8 to maybe even 10 inches in some spots. However, as you move further inland, there is a more widespread area of 6 to 8 inches, maybe even 10 inches of rain in some localized spots, again, depending on those feeder bands and where they set up with the storm. But again, any wobble east or west over the next day or two could depend on how close this comes to New Orleans. And like I mentioned earlier, models have been trending a little bit further east with this. So New Orleans, you guys are definitely going to be wanting to watch this one pretty closely over the next few days. Now, that being said, that is going to be it for today's video. I will have another video out tomorrow to give you guys a final update for this storm, so make sure to check back for that. And if you guys did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. It does help get my forecasts out to more people and also motivates you to make more videos for you guys. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and peace out.